This is the Shine On You Crazy Daisy podcast, and I'm your host, Trudy Simmons from the Daisy Chain Group, providing platforms for women entrepreneurs to be seen and heard. This platform is for women entrepreneurs that want to hear the real stories of what it takes to be yourself and run a business with all the different hats that you might have to wear. These are the stories of the tenacious, the rebellious, and the resilient women that are working towards the future that they want to build for themselves and their families. I am thrilled and excited to introduce you to Sara Thornton from WebHolism. Sara, hello, welcome. Thank you for being here, and tell us about your business.
Hello, and thank you so much for having me, Trudy. This is just so wonderful to be here. I'm Sara Thornton, and I run with my husband a website and SEO agency specializing in WordPress websites, strategy for your websites and SEO, and training. So that's the things that we love to do.
I love how excited you get about it all as well.
I do. I'm so passionate. I'm just, and part of that I cover in my chapter actually is where part of that passion came from is protecting people from, the things that they don't know. It's just an education process.
Yeah. So. But that's the thing with everybody's business. We get very passionate about the things that we do for other people. Yeah. And that shines through quite wonderfully. Brilliantly in your chapter, you talked about the ways that being an entrepreneur stretched you out of your comfort zone and in ways that you hadn't anticipated. What does that look like?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so a little bit of backstory. I grew up in a very traditional family where your life was you go to school, you get good grades, you go to university, you get a good job, you climb the corporate ladder. If you're a lady, you have children and you maybe be a stay-at-home mom for a while, maybe go back to career, then you retire and die, and that's your life. So when I met my husband is the complete opposite of me. He's very much a free thinker. He's lived in several different countries. He's just completely the opposite. He went to university as a mature student. He was the first person in his family to go to university. So he's very much been that free thinker, out of the box kind of person. And so when I first met Jason, but I'll refer to him as Jay, my husband, and yeah, he just built websites for people for free because he's that kind of person, just lovely and just again wants to help people. And so when we started making WebHolism a proper business and actually charging people for our work, when that started to evolve and this snowball started to gather momentum, and all of a sudden because we were still doing full-time jobs at the time, when it started to gather so much momentum that we couldn't physically pack in our 9 to 5 and all the WebHolism stuff, and we thought, oh, you know what, we're really going to have to make this leap. When that happened, I was utterly unprepared for the giant weight of responsibility and all these life skills that I'd never really been prepared for, that kind of standing on your own 2 feet. And that's okay, that you can be responsible for your own income, and that's okay. Whereas I felt like I'd kind of been cast out into the wilderness of just, out with the wolves and good luck, soldier. So just I felt very alone, even though I was doing it with my husband, and Jay was incredibly emotionally supportive. I very much felt, very alone, very so far out of my comfort zone. It was unbelievable. And very much in the realm of, I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm the kind of person, I was very good academically. I always had people, one saying, you're doing a good job, which again disappeared. All of a sudden, I no longer had a boss to tell me, oh, great job, Sara, and a pat on the head. Oh, yay me. All of that was gone. And so I suddenly felt very untethered and just kind of floating about, like I didn't know about pricing. I wasn't a marketeer or a salesperson, which some people are kind of like, hang on, you do SEO. SEO is a completely different skill set and realm to marketing. Mm. Marketing is very much its own genius. And sales, again, being a salesperson, being that person not only selling, but selling your own brand is very different to selling someone else's. Yeah. So there were just all these different aspects, and the weight of it. I think if I had been doing it on my own, I'm so in awe of businesswomen that do this on their own. Absolutely in awe of it. I feel like I cheated because I had Jay in the background going, it's okay. At the end of the day when I was like, that was so hard, and he'd give me a hug. Hugs are so restorative for me. That emotional and physical support of just being, it's okay. We're trotting along. I don't know if I would have been able to do it on my own. I really don't. And it was before the days of me discovering you and discovering your wonderful support groups and support groups for business women. This was probably 7 or 8 years before discovering you that we started on this journey. So
it's really interesting when you talk about that feeling of not just coming from corporate, but even university, school, all the things that are before us, parents around all the time, where you can get a level of recognition, appreciation, that feeling of proud from somebody else. And when you are working for yourself in your own business, that lack of feeling seen and heard when you're not putting yourself out there to do that, and being able to congratulate yourself is what we're taught not to do.
Yeah.
But then when we need to do it, I do it to myself all the time. I tell myself how brilliant I am, but that's me.
But we need to learn that. All of us need to learn that, because I think that is an essential part of running your own business. Sorry, I interrupted you. You continue your.
No, but it's a phenomenon of each of these interviews that I'm doing. It's somebody says something that you go, that is what everybody needs to hear.
Yeah.
What you've just said there in not being able to, in needing to hear that recognition and not being able to hear it, makes you feel even more alone in what you're doing. Because even when you've had the biggest of days and you've accomplished the biggest websites, the biggest results in SEO, and you're sitting there going, I did it. Oh, and there's no one there to hear you or listen to you or congratulate you. It can be really hard in picking yourself back up the next day.
Yeah. And for a lot of people, even my parents were always very supportive and, kind of, well done, Poppet. And, but it's, when you get a promotion, everyone knows what that means. It's champagne, it's congratulations. But those little milestones in business that to other people may seem very small, but to you it is absolutely huge. It's almost like people who aren't in the arena don't quite know how to deal with this. It's for you, it's a big deal, and in a sense, if you have really good people around you, they take their cues from you, and they're like, okay, she's excited, this is a big deal, we'll celebrate. But yeah, I think that lack of approval, that lack of guidance, that really so deep digging, having to trust your own judgment, when a lot of us are raised in situations through education, through university, where we're not being trained to trust our own judgment as a skill. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's like, no, your teachers will tell you when you're doing well. Your grades will tell you whether you're doing well. Your parents will tell you whether you're doing well. When you start your own business, all of that's gone, completely gone.
Amazing.
And so it's, having to dig deep, I think was just, it was very much a personal journey of growth of myself as a person, as much as it's almost been like 50-50.
Yeah.
Growth of business and growth of myself as a person. And nobody really talks about that, it's
exactly. And I think that leads perfectly onto what you talk about in the chapter, is this thing of undercharging.
Oh yeah.
And how that has affected you and your business. Yeah. And when we are looking for that level of appreciation and recognition and we're not getting it, then I think that undervaluing is something that or undercharging is something that we start doing because we undervalue what we're doing.
So true. And also because I didn't know, I knew what I was doing from a technical standpoint, but from the running the business perspective, not a Nelly. I had no clue. I'd never read a business book. My husband had been doing it for free, but he wasn't a business person. He was just building websites. He had a talent and a skill, and he was building websites for people. But he had no, he came from a computer science degree background. I came from an electrical engineering degree. That was my degree. Nothing to do with business whatsoever. And so we hadn't read any books. I certainly hadn't read any books on business. I was not involved in any business groups. The closest I got was joining the FSB very early on, because they gave you a free co-op bank account, and we wanted to go with the co-op anyway. So I was like, this is synergy, this is perfect. But I never really attended any meetings, because I was I felt like, well, those meetings are for proper business people, and I'm not really a proper business person. I just happen to be running a business, not really equating the two. So I never went to any of those meetings. And in fact, it wasn't your networking meetings. That was the first networking meeting I had ever been to, because it was so approachable, and it felt not scary. It felt very warm and inviting, and that helped to get me into that whole networking thing. But yeah, the undercharging bit, man, that is so tough. I mean, it's very different nowadays in my industry. So my industry being SEO and websites, where people are so much more visible now about their pricing, because there's a lot more competition, which is great. So people and companies are a lot more upfront about their pricing. 10 plus years ago, when we started, it was, you only heard about the cheap ones. They were the only ones that talked about their pricing. Everyone else was, contact us for a quote, which in my mind was too expensive for me to afford. Yep. And that's still how I view it. Whenever I see a website that says contact us for a quote, my instant reaction is, it's either going to be a pushy salesperson that is going to make me feel very uncomfortable, or it's too expensive for me. And so a huge part of what we did from the very get-go was be completely upfront with our pricing, that, to give people an arena of some sort of idea of what things would cost. But we so over-delivered and undercharged. But the plus side of that is we gained this amazing, loyal, wonderful following of clients who, all pretty much, I'd say probably 95%, of all our clients have been word of mouth. They've been people who've recommended people. I think we've had a few come in directly via our website who've never heard of us before. We wrote blog posts that resolved people's problems, and they were like, oh my goodness, you know how to fix this plugin, please can you work with me? And then that client relationship just started. But again, that was us putting things out there, us solving problems for people for free, and they resonated with that and then became clients. But
how have you got past this undercharging or undervaluing yourselves?
So slowly. I really wish I'd discovered you and your group sooner, because I think that would have accelerated that process. That would have given me more confidence, and more of a reverb area, like more of a sounding board to understand what was too cheap, and what I was always fearful of being too expensive and not being able to help the people that needed our help. So it was just slowly, and still to this day, a lot of our clients, we've never increased their prices. We only increase prices for new clients, because I hate having that discussion. So it's still a work in progress. I am by no means a master of decent pricing. But over the years, I think when we started out, I think it was something ridiculous. Like we worked for like the equivalent of £2 an hour. Like it was so far beyond minimum wage when you worked out all the hours that we worked. It was just ridiculous. And then we went up to like £10 an hour. Oh my goodness, and 20. And now we're in the like heading towards, kind of £100+ an hour for new clients, which is, I never in a million years I thought that we would get there. But part of it is within your own comfort zone, but another part of it is actively expanding your comfort zone. Yes. Because you don't want to go so far that it makes you feel icky, because that's not a nice way to feel when you're representing, as much as we want to feel that our businesses are a separate entity from ourselves. Yeah. They're so entwined with who we are. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. They're separate, but they are us, Yeah. And so it's just been a very, very slow journey for us. I mean, I guess this unofficially started happening in 2006 with Jay. I hopped on board in 2008. So this has been 15 years of working on it.
Frames, when you look at those the big things of I'm undercharging, I'm undervaluing myself, those big things can take years and years. It isn't a case of, oh, I'll change my mindset tomorrow and then it's done. You need a support network around you to support that. You need your mind to be clear on it. You need to not feel that icky feeling, but find that place that's a little bit icky, but not icky too icky. So
just pushing it. And one of the things actually that helped me was getting to that place where we were so full with clients that when new clients would come along, I would price higher because we didn't have the space that we would have to start sacrificing our personal time to be able to fit these clients in. And so that was when I started valuing our time a little bit more. And part of me would send out quotes and think, I'd never in a million years go for this. And they'd say, okay, brilliant. When can we start? And we'd be like, are you serious? Are you really want to pay that price? And part of it was the personal work. It was working on my own self-esteem, working on the quality of the products and the service that we deliver, that plus add, and also understanding that the people we were comparing ourselves to, the cheapies, what poor service they were providing, because you don't see that when you look at their marketing pages and they're all singing, all dancing for £99 or whatever. You don't see the poor quality of service. You don't see all the things that go behind there. You just assume that they're doing the same quality as you are, and that's often not the case.
And this is the wonderful thing of having your own business, and the really hard thing that you don't realize when you start out is that you're not just putting out the services that you do. You are going to work on your self-esteem, where you get recognition, your mindset, how you can think positively, what you're going to charge that's going to give you the lifestyle that you deserve because you're working that hard, and all these things that go on in your head all the time. And one of the things that you did talk about was feeling trapped by your business. How did you move forward from that feeling?
That's a really good question. I think part of it has been, I am a massive advocate for counselling and therapy, whichever city you live in or country you live in, everyone calls it by different names. And that was a huge part of my personal side of things. Letting go of my preconceived ideas of who and what I should be, who and how I should represent myself in the business world. It being okay to not be this business lady in an office with a team of 50, that it was little old me and Jay and, our room that we, kind of converted into an office. That I think a huge part of it was working on the personal stuff. It was that personal work, because I think a lot of people who don't run their own businesses, who are in traditional employ, and that can be incredibly satisfying and work wonderfully for so many people. But when you work for somebody else, you don't have to do work on yourself.
Yeah.
Unless you've got extreme issues like anger management issues, or, other than that, for the most majority of people, they go to their job, they do their thing, they come home, they live their life, and that's fine. They can be who they are, and that's fine. When you run your own business, I think there is a significant amount of work that you need to do on your own personal baggage and blocks and emotional whatever, because it's just going to get magnified when you go into business.
And it's levels. We get to one level, we think we've cleared it, and then something else happens. Like, no, I just feel up with this.
So true. So going past it, and I mean, I would recommend this to everyone in general, because I love counselling and therapy. I just think it's the most amazing gift you can give to yourself.
Yeah.
Because it changes your life. It utterly changes your view of the world and how you interact with it and how you value yourself.
Yeah.
And how you view yourself in just such a beautiful way. So I think that's the biggest thing. And then it would be support groups. It would be being in a safe, secure environment where you can truly be yourself, and people can react to you being you. I think that's being in your group, Trudy, has just been so amazing at this ultra positive, supportive environment that you don't have to be on all the time, where all I tell you is the happy stuff, that you can share the parts where you feel poop and where you feel worried and where you feel anxious, and everyone else chimes in and like, been there, yep, it's okay, you'll get through it.
Yeah, and you're not alone.
Yeah. And it's almost a rite of passage that you have to kind of go through it, because then you learn from it. Yeah. I wouldn't, part of me wants to say you kind of, it's not that you become numb to it or that you become desensitized to it, but it's almost like you move past it, that it doesn't become as much of a hurty thing to you. Like, you know, if you ever get bad client feedback, that was like a mortal wound to me on thankfully, the very few occasions that we've had that, where, you know, we would deliver a website and I'd be like, this is on it, this is exactly what they need, and they would be like, oh, this wasn't quite what I was expecting, and it was like someone had like stabbed me in the heart, you know, because we prided ourselves on really getting into them and their business, and your website is such a reflection of your business and your business personality, and so it's such a huge thing. And sometimes client feedback is not about you, sometimes it speaks more about the client. And it took me a really, really long time to learn that. I mean, sometimes it's you, and that's, you know, that's where you take that on board and go, okay, how am I going to improve? How am I going to make this better? How am I going to make this so that this client comes away happy? Some clients you'll never be able to make happy, and understanding that and having to let that go was a really painful process for me, because I'm a people pleaser. You know, I want people to come away going, you awesome, you know, that was amazing, I love this, you know, and that's what I'm going for. Which is it can be a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because it makes you go that extra mile. It makes you really produce that beautiful work. The curse is you kind of self-flagellate yourself when you're not quite.
But that comes back to what we were saying at the beginning with the recognition. We're looking for that recognition from our clients. And when we don't get it in exactly the way that we think we're doing, then it is that stab to the heart, because it is about you. I've got two really quick questions for you.
So
you know that.
Sorry.
What is the one lesson that you would want a new entrepreneur to know about that you have learned?
Oh, okay. There are so many, but my top one would be, as soon as you can, focus on your genius. So focus on the things that only you can do, and try and ship out all the things that you don't have to do. Invoicing, bookkeeping, all the stuff that keeps you busy, sucks up the time out of your day, emails. Everyone will have their own different things, because everyone's business runs slightly differently and you have different huge piles of work. Anything that you can ship out to a virtual assistant. Virtual assistants. Virtual assistants are your key to leveling up. Seriously, that would be my number one thing. And purely hone in on only the things that only, being honest with yourself, the fingers coming out, being honest with yourself. I'm speaking to the audience, you know, listening out there. Be honest with yourself. What are the things that only you can do? Whether that's driving the business, the strategy side of things, whether it's delivering the products, or, you know, and then bring other people in to do the rest, because that will help your business go to the next level.
Absolutely gold. Yes. What's your favorite piece of software that you use for your business?
Gmail. Love it. And the whole Google suite. And Google probably don't hate me, Google, for saying this, but what a lot of people do is they hop into Google Business very early on, especially. Google Business is wonderful, but for a lot of people who are watching the pennies, just regular Google works fine. That, you know, you can run Google Docs, spreadsheets, all of that. It's all free. Upgrading to business is normally when you get out of that kind of startup area and maybe into, you know, kind of a little bit more established. But starting out, Gmail, you can run all your professional emails through Gmail. It's one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that when you run your email through something like Outlook, again, Microsoft, don't hate me, when you run something through Outlook, depending on whether it's kind of online or when you download it to your machine, if that is the only copy, if your machine goes pop, so disappear all your emails. So the wonderful thing with Gmail is because it's hosted on Google servers, if your machine goes pop, hopefully it doesn't, but if it goes pop or if it gets, disappears, or you never know, things happen, that all your emails are safe because they live in the wonderful cloud. They live in the internet, the magical internet, so that you can access it anywhere. So it enables you to be very, have a good business continuity plan.
Yes.
If the worst case scenario, you're fine. So,
Sara, you are a wealth of information on everything that you do and on the business side, and your growth over the years that I've seen you and watched you has been astounding and brilliant in the way that you have dealt with yourself as much as with the business, and it's a joy to have watched that with you. Thank you so much for writing your chapter for Shine On You Crazy Daisy. It is, I can't wait to get that out into people's hands and to see everybody's journeys, but to see what you've done and how you've accomplished and how you've moved through these things is really inspiring. So thank you.
Oh, and thank you so much for having me and everything that you've done for me and my business. I cannot thank you enough. It's been life-changing. And I hope that this book, Shine On You Crazy Daisy, I hope that it helps all those new and, kind of established women entrepreneurs and business people everywhere to see these different journeys and to open these gates of we're all on the same journey, and it's just helping each other along the way.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for watching the Shine On You Crazy Daisy podcast. If you've liked what you've seen today, then please make sure that you click the subscribe button to this channel to see more inspiration and motivation as more of these stories keep coming out. And if you want even more, click on the link below this video and go and have a look at the series of books Shine On You Crazy Daisy and get even more inspiration and motivation for you and your business.